Yes, because obviously you have impeccable main character energy. Main character energy. So, after opening with an honestly rather pointless recap of the last episode, we actually open with Kaiserin recollecting the events that led up to her father's assassination. Apparently, rumors had gone around that the Kaiser was unable to die from old age, and thus the people of Skyland viewed him as an inevitable threat after Elaine's eventual passing. Well, okay, aside from the little detail of Kaiserin somehow knowing how people of a different country viewed her father.
How did you know about the part you weren't there for?
Ah, that's a story for another time, I'm afraid.
This would actually be an interesting conundrum. If your previous enemy had some form of immortality, who's to say they won't go back on their word, either out of malice, or hell, maybe they'll even forget about their treaty eventually. These could all be interesting concepts, though considering how this episode ends, and really how this show has been panning out so far, yeah, they probably won't explore it much more than having Elaine seemingly assassinate the Emperor with the help of her royal guard to really hammer home Kaiserin's hate for the kingdom. Going back to the present, said Empress decided to summon forth the last of the energy from her empire. Funny, you don't look like a demon who doesn't flush or a perverted monkey. I need to watch different shows. With that, we did get legit some of the best Sakuga scenes of this last core of the series, as the Cures tried to hold back the Kaiserin, whilst Mashiro charged up her Prism Shine. Yeah, no, I'm sticking with Spirit Bomb. Because, like the one Goku tried to use on Vegeta, the initial attempt failed. Regardless though, a really good sequence here, where they even went through the trouble of animating every little jumping detail here. Then anyway, she started to take down Tsubasa's supposedly impenetrable barrier with just a few attacks, and on top of creating a faulty shield. Tsubasa, are you really supposed to be the smart member of this team? Yet somehow, he avoided being turned into fried chicken thanks to everyone else doing the smart thing and just tackling the crazy bitch. From there, Ageha, who also earlier suggested Masho use her Spirit Bomb, then did make a smart call to split up the A and B teams, with the former holding off the Kaiserin, while she and Tsubasa helped inside the barrier. That did actually lead to a pretty exciting and engaging multi-front battle with everyone doing something. The King and Queen tried to evacuate their citizens to Earth, Ageha and the Azure Guard tried to hold off some Romborg, and Tsubasa tried to fix his faulty barrier. And yeah, while that last thing felt a little forced, like if it just takes a few clicks to fix, why not include an all repair function? It was a gripping climax. That is until... yeah, dude, I'm pretty sure if you did something like that, something more than just a fart would come out. So yeah, the former villains came in to save the day, and it just didn't work for me, as not only are these guys not all that interesting, but a lot of this is just reminding me that we missed out on some great story potential here. Be it having these guys actually interact with each other, or reminding me of when I was actually hyped for the series. Oh hey look, it's the best new ship in the show, the They Deserve More Screen Time duel. Yeah, spoilers, but they didn't make Shala a twist villain. Which, yeah, I know people have been saying that there wasn't any build-up to that twist, but I'd argue the twist that they end up going with was equally poorly built up, and moreover, it makes her a rather wasted character. Like, why was that one blue girl so infatuated with her? Oh yeah, the show did have some girl with some big blue pigtails in it, didn't it? Nah, she's probably not that important. I mean, yeah, I get that they probably want to give a little more for the B team of the show to do, since they've kind of been pushed aside after Majesty's debut, especially Ageha, but why is it that in this final arc, Sora seems like she's only really gonna get focused in the last 2 episodes? Anyway, the B team managed to work together in an admittedly impressive bit where Ageha managed to fortify Tsubasa's barrier, allowing him to fix it up before Kaiserin could probably just launch another attack to break it again. Yeah, just ignore the fact that you've called him Tsubasa at least a few times by now. Though, and also, they tried to use this to explain to the Kaiserin that power wasn't everything, even though you could argue it was the power of Ageha's massive barrier that saved the day. I mean, yeah, I get that they're trying to say that it was a power being used to protect others rather than trying to conquer, but who's to say that preservation of others isn't a form of domination in of itself? I mean, Kaiserin shielding her father made sense as she had no powers to her name at that time and managed to block a fatal blow meant for him, while Akiha has been arguably the strongest member of this team, at least in terms of versatility, so yeah, this mission is just kind of muffled is all I'm saying. Regardless, their talk no jutsu was effective, giving Mashiro an opening for her spirit bomb and her dual finisher with that one blue girl. With that, they finally tried to talk things out with the Kaiserin, but... Ooh.
教えたはず。力がすべて。生まれた私たちにとって議論するまでもないことだ。
You did one good thing last week, and now it's gone. Or back. I don't know, just... Yeah, let's just get this out of the way. I maintain that they should have had Shala be a twist villain for the show. It not only would have been a good twist, but also would have given a good final challenge to Sora, the girl who at this point I do question whether or not she's the main character of the show. It's someone she has a very personal connection with, and it would force her to question her ideals as a hero girl if she had been worshipping a false idol. Hell, they had a good setup in this episode with that difficult conundrum we mentioned on whether or not it was safe to keep the Kaiser around, especially after unrest over his immortality was being drummed up. Like, even if he never betrayed them, the Skylandians would likely be on edge over just a potentially dangerous entity and might even start a few civil wars over it and... Oh wait, sorry, I'm using clips from Osama Sentai King Oger. It's a little show that airs right after this and actually has good political intrigue in a fantasy world. You know, something we could have also had with this show. But no, instead we get this show and this twist with Spearhead that will likely boil down to a very basic good versus evil conflict with the guy who looks like a Yahtzee acting like a Yahtzee. It's very likely he impersonated or somehow controlled Elaine and assassinated his own king, believing that peace was a form of weakness, and thus restarted the war by pulling an actually successful Starscream. Though speaking of the Transformers, his whole obsession over power was just so stupid, especially when compared to the leader of the Decepticons. Megatron and those like him wanted power because they believed they could assure true peace and order through total domination. And if given a high political position, they would likely take full advantage of it. Meanwhile, Spearhead's idea of power here just seems to be brute force, as by breaking the peace treaty and assassinating the Kaiser, he's put his own empire in a far worse position. Your king can't die of old age, so why not play the long game and whisper sweet nothings into his and the Kaiserin's ears for a few decades, especially after Elaine eventually passes away? Maybe sow seeds of paranoia over the Skylandians possibly betraying them, which they even seem to be going in that direction themselves, forcing them to restart the war. No, you see, my plan is great and I have it all figured out. Okay, what is it then? Alright, so first I kill off two of our empire's most powerful monarchs, and then I take over. My plan is... What I'm saying is, it could have been anyone besides this putz. It could have been Shala, who also could have had, like, immortality somehow, and was just ensuring peace through some very morally gray methods. Or hell, maybe even actually have it be Elaine succumbing to the pressures from her people, and maybe blocking out her crimes from her memory out of guilt. Just anyone besides the guy who says power is everything, even though he's lost all of his battles so far. Now, to be fair, I will put in the little caveat that maybe they could still fix things, as it hasn't been confirmed whether or not that actually is Spearhead manipulating or impersonating Elaine, but really at this point, I'm not expecting any sort of clever twist out of this show. So yeah, the episode ended with Spearhead returning and revealing himself as the true final boss, and my only hope for the show at this point is just seeing these two hook up. this might well be one of the most frustrating episodes I've ever seen in this franchise. I mean, on the one hand, and in spite of some minor and even slightly more major nitpicks, it was for the most part a well animated and exciting climactic battle with a lot going on at once. On the other hand, that ending and its implications for the last 2 episodes of the show really do not leave me with a whole lot of hope for them.
This sucks, man.
In a way, it kind of amazes me how the show managed to make all the wrong story choices by the very end. Again, even if they didn't want to go with the Shala twist, there were still other, more thematically rich choices they could have gone with for the Kaiser's killer, other than the most obviously evil guy in the room. And yes, maybe they can still do it, but really, just having this guy come back after his perfectly good death scene makes it unlikely, and just undoes the goodwill we had going last week. Which is really a shame, especially with this episode that was otherwise pretty damn good. The multiple battles format was exciting and made for a thrilling final battle with Kaiserin. This was supported by some good animation. I mean, yeah, it was easy to tell that this episode had multiple animation directors, but they at least allocated the good animation in the battles that really mattered. And sure, I wasn't sold on the former villains coming back to help, especially a certain someone, but it made sense, and at least they weren't the worst return in this episode. But yeah, if you could tell by my ranting, I really didn't like that ending, and thus overall, while this final battle with Kaiserin was a good showing for 60% of this team, Sora's lack of presence and Spearhead's return really brings it down for me. At this point, heroes, villains, hope, despair, it really doesn't matter at this point when there's no good story to support any of it. Currently, we're working on an overview for Ultimate Precure, which should be out soon, maybe early into February or so. By that time, it might be after the first episode of Wonderful, but we'll likely record a script before we get any sort of first impressions of that show. Regardless, it should give an idea of why we're hesitant towards another show being written by Yoshimi Narita. So, look forward to it. And until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and if you'll excuse me, I think I'll just go back to watching King Osher. At least this show is building to a satisfying conclusion.